What is up, guys? Raymaster Flex here. It has been a long time since I've done a video related to WWE. Of course, we know how they have been, but two interesting things I wanted to talk about briefly here in this video. First is the unexpected return of Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler made his in-ring return to the WWE after over a 5 month hiatus from the company. As long as he's been gone, I believe the last time we've seen Dolph Ziggler at uh, was at the Royal Rumble, and after that, we just didn't see him again. And I thought for sure he was leaving the company, but apparently he had been doing comedy sketches, doing comedy stuff outside of WWE all of this time, and now all of a sudden he comes out and he beats the living hell out of Kofi Kingston, WWE champion. And the way that they set it up, I mean, was very unexpected because you had Paul Heyman come out and hold the briefcase, and you kind of knew that Brock wasn't going to come out, but it was just shocking that while he was doing this, all of a sudden, Dolph Ziggler came out and beat the living hell out of Kofi Kingston. That had to be one of the most shocking moments, and I got to give a lot of credit to them because I don't think anybody's seen this coming. And you know, it sucks that this is only like a 2 week build because Super Showdown is the week after next, so it's really not a lot of time to build this feud. The problem that I have though is that Kobe is still currently feuding with Kevin Owens, and after Kevin apparently attacked Big E backstage, when they were celebrating early in the night at the beginning of the show, celebrating the return of Big E, after Kevin Owens apparently attacked Big E backstage, and Kobe was like, "Who did it?" And Big E was saying that it was Kevin, and then Xavier told him, "Go out and do your match with Sammy," while he would uh, deal with Big E. It's kind of confusing that they would choose to do this now. I mean, I thought on paper that it was supposed to be Kevin versus Kobe also at Super Showdown. I mean, why not end that feud first and then focus on this? Because I'm pretty interested on this. This is not one of those feuds that should just be at something like Super Showdown that's in like 2 weeks and then just end just like that. I mean, unless they plan on making this like a triple threat type thing, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense to have this happen at Super Showdown and then at the next pay per view, which I believe is Stomping Grounds, they have Kofi Kingston defend once again the title against Kevin Owens. I mean, I don't really think, or it's advertised to be Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, but I don't really think that would make a lot of sense. I mean, that would just be throwing the creative direction everywhere. And for Kofi Kingston's sake, I really do think that uh, this was good for him because a lot of people question, could he really carry the WWE Championship? And even though he throw pancakes around still, I do like the fact that when it's time to go, it's time to go. Kobe does put on that series mode when he's in the ring. I mean, say what you want about Kobe Kingston, say what you want about New Day being stale, say what you want about the constant pancake stuff, but at the end, when it comes to them being in the ring, they are legitimate badasses. And you know, Kobe here, you could see the anger that they had him have after he saw Biggie hurt. Obviously, it was a setup by Sammy and Kevin Owens. And then he just basically from there beat Sami Zayn on Smackdown Live tonight. And like I said, man, this shocked the mess out of me. I did not expect Dolph Ziggler to make a return tonight at all. I don't think anyone expected this. I don't. There were no dirt sheets. There were no rumors that I seen of anything about Dolph Ziggler making a return. So I think this had to be the most unexpected thing I ever seen, and this was really a unexpected twist. But I like it, and WWE, especially in the condition that they're in, especially with the competition that All Elite is going to bring, and just all of the things that they're dealing with right now, it kind of needs something like this, and that's my thing. And Dolph Ziggler came out and explained that basically his jealousy of Kobe Kingston having all the spotlight. Kobe Kingston been in Elimination Chamber after he replaced Mustafa Ali. Kobe Kingston been wrestling, fighting for the WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan, saying that it should have been him. The typical, Dolph Ziggler type of thing, basically saying that he should have been in the spotlight that Kobe Kingston was in. And like I said, Kobe Kingston and Dolph Ziggler, they're no strangers to feuding with each other. I've always liked. I think they work very well together. They had a pretty big feud back in 2010, and even in 2011 for that matter. They battled over the Intercontinental Championship. They battled over the United States Championship. So this is not the first time that we've seen Kobe Kingston and Dolph Ziggler going one-on-one against each other. But I just think that to do it at Super Showdown was too early. That's the only thing. I think they should have waited for this because to do this at Super Showdown is too early, and it kind of makes the story. And this is really the problem that WWE continues to have with continuations of stories. It makes it look very confusing. I mean, the only way this would make sense is if there's some type of involvement with Kevin Owens, because you can't have Kofi Kingston feud with Dolph Ziggler at Super Showdown, which is literally in only 2 weeks, and not have Kevin Owens involved at all. That just typically storyline wise does not make any sense because you just can't have that happen. It doesn't add up. And I'm going to be interested to see what they do with this. I think that if they, especially with it only being one more week to like do something like this, I'm interested to see what they're going to do. I'm interested to see if this is the only time we're going to see Dolph Ziggler in the title picture feuding with Kobe Kingston. I mean, there's so many questions that I just have about this whole thing. I mean, like I said, to have Kevin Owens attack Big E from backstage, but then to have Dolph Ziggler beat the hell out of Kobe Kingston in the ring, it just kind of makes the story confusing. It's like, if he's still feuding with Kevin Owens or has he switched to Dolph Ziggler? That's kind of the confusing part. And it's like, if he's still feuding with Kevin Owens, and is this going to become a thing where they continue to feud with Dolph as well, and the Stomping Grounds just becomes like a fatal four-way triple threat match, something like that? I mean, where are they going with this? That's the only thing. It was a perfect twist. It was a perfect thing they set up. I really like the way they did it because no one expected it. I don't think the crowd expected it. I don't think anyone expected it. I think this was one of the best ways to bring Dolph Ziggler back and to have Kofi Kingston feud with someone else at Super Showdown, especially when people have really doubted Kofi Kingston's ability to carry the WWE Championship and have really questioned, what could he really do with the title after he beat Kevin Owens? Like, where does he go from here? Well, there's your answer, And I look at a lot of the Jobbers channel, and shout out to that channel. I really like that channel. I look at a lot of his stuff. I look at a lot of Wrestle Talk. Shout out to them. And one of the things that I've heard is that, well, particularly from the Jobbers channel, is that where does Kobe Kingston go from here after he beat Kevin Owens and Money in the Bank? Like, what's more to tell about him? Well, this is a perfect example of that. You have Dolph Ziggler come out and beat the hell out of him. This really continues to elevate Kobe Kingston as a WWE champion by having something like this happen, because now you're giving him a creative director. You're giving him a way to continue as WWE champion. It seemed like after WrestleMania they just didn't know what to do with him creatively. But then they had Kevin Owens turn on him after just a week of joining the New Day, which was very fast. And that didn't really add up doing that. But they had no other choice because apparently they had no one else he was going to feud with. But with Dolph Ziggler, this is perfect. This is a fresh feud. This is someone who we have not seen in months. And like I said, it's just a shame that it's happening at someone like Super Showdown that's only in 2 weeks. Not a lot of time to build it up. But it's going to be interesting to see if they continue this thing. Where do they go from here? Exactly how Kobe Kingston's reign is going to go as champion. I'm really interested to see how that's going to turn out because Kobe Kingston, to me, he's been doing a pretty good job as WWE champion. He's already defended the title 3 times now. He defended against Daniel Bryan on Raw. in the triple threat match on SmackDown Live. So he's been with AJ Styles and Sami Zayn. So he's been defending the title and he retained against Kevin Owens. He's been doing a hell of a job as champion. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I know Kobe is definitely going to retain here, but I just want to see how far they're going to go with this. I think this here had to be a huge change for them. And again, I like the unpredictableness because you need that, especially at this rate of how things are going for them. They need this unpredictability, and I got to give them credit for that. So there you go. First thing I want to talk about was Dolph Ziggler's return to SmackDown Live. I had to instantly do a video as soon as SmackDown went off about that because that really caught me off guard. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is on Raw. Also here on SmackDown Live is the new 24-hour title. I'm not going to talk about it that long. I'm just going to say everyone basically knows that it's a replica of the Hardcore Championship. Personally, obviously this is for the lower mid-card guys, basically more so the jobbers running after this championship. I seen on SmackDown tonight, Matt Hardy was one of the guys who was running after the championship. I mean, hardcore Crash Holly was famously known for making the 24-hour rule with the Hardcore Championship, and it burst on the scene in 1998 when it was given as a gift from Vince McMahon to Mankind. He was the first one to hold it fully, which is why everyone knows it Hardcore Championship. But because of sponsors, they did not call it that. Instead, they call it the 24-hour title. For me personally, do I think that this, what do I think of the, championship? The design isn't great, but I do think that, it is pretty funny. Is it going to help anybody? No. Is it a way to get the people that's barely shown on television to fight after something? Yes. Is WWE desperate to do this just to keep people under contract? Yes. All of the answers that people are typically saying, and I'm not going to say it because I'm not one of those people who are just going to say the same things because everyone else is saying it. Like everyone else is saying, basically saying WWE, they don't know what they're doing. This title is worthless. This title doesn't mean anything. There's just people with rage over this and saying that it's not going to help elevate anybody. My personal taste on it is, well, all of that is true. I mean, we all know what the case is. It's just Vince is scared because a lot of guys are wants to leave the company, are unhappy with their creative direction, and he's trying to find a way to keep them there. Like this, to me, really doesn't have anything to do with ratings. Now, could ratings be a factor? Hell yes. That definitely is one of the things that he is doing all this stuff for, is to boost up ratings. But another thing is also he just simply doesn't want to lose his workers, which is a problem that he's been having for months and months and months now. Is constant superstars wanting to leave WWE. And some of them have been granted their release, like Ty Dillinger, like Goldust, and a few others, just to name a few. But some of them, like Luke Harper and Sasha Banks, have not been granted their release. Even the Revival, so many other people who wanted to leave WWE have not been granted their release because Vince is holding them a lockdown and he doesn't want them to leave because he fears that they're all going to go to All Elite, which, of course, is really the direction that a lot of them are going. But, what do I think? I do think it's funny. In my opinion, you don't have to agree with me, but I do think the championship, it's funny seeing guys run around and fight over the title. Like, last night was funny because, first you had Titus O'Neil hold it for just like a few seconds. And then Robert Roode came from behind him and won the championship. Became the second, uh, he became the second 24/7 champion. And then from there, R-Truth tricked him into going to his car to save him from everybody else chasing after him just for R-Truth to stab him from behind and take the belt off of him. And this night on SmackDown Live, I like it how, because a lot of people may not be too fond of this because of the championship constantly changing hands, and that's something that we've seen happen with even the mid-card championship at this point, where they play hot tomatoes with the United States Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, even the tag team titles. We've seen them play hot tomatoes with it, with people constantly dropping the belt almost every other month, and that's pretty much what they're doing with this. Um, you know, and I like how on SmackDown tonight they didn't have R-Truth immediately lose the title. I mean, it's a 24/7 thing, but I like how R-Truth managed to escape and avoid anyone from pinning him. He even stopped himself from getting pinned from Jinder Mahal. He stopped himself from getting pinned from the B team because they ended up fighting over the championship, and then he just ran and left. I like how they did it like that because you don't need to have the championship change on every single show. And like I said, Crash Holly was famously known for making that rule in the first place. And when he made the rule, he regretted it because the late great Crash Holly, he regretted it because every time he turned around, somebody was chasing after you for the title. And at that time, it worked. Around at that era that he was doing it, it worked around the Attitude Era. That was basically the time that the Hardcore Championship was a thing, where it was a 24-hour rule. And, every second you had a different champion. Most famously, the two moments I can remember the best was one of the times where Pat Patterson, uh, he betrayed Jerry Briscoe, or is it the other name? One of the Briscoe, I think it's the other Briscoe. He betrayed him and ended up making him drink putting something in his eyes so he could beat him for the Hardcore Championship. And then I think there was a time where they had a match against each other, and Crash Holly came out and pinned one of them for the title. Because between Crash Holly and Hardcore Holly, I think they had the most title reigns, most Hardcore Championship reigns. Crash Holly had about maybe 18 championship reigns with the Hardcore Championship. It was crazy. But like every minute, someone would lose the belt. Like at WrestleMania 18, most famously, um, started off with Maven as champion because he had actually, and that was the funny thing. Like they had that rule, but when the Undertaker won the Hardcore Championship from RVD, he held on to it for a while before he lost it to Maven. And then Maven went against Goldust, and then he got pinned by Spike. And then I believe Spike ended up losing the belt to the Hurricane, and then the Hurricane ended up losing the belt to Molly Holly, and then Molly Holly ended up losing the belt to Christian, and then Christian ended up losing the belt to Maven, who had the championship from the start of the night. So it was just constant title changes, and it was funny. It was hilarious at the time. At this era now, the problem is that with the change in fan base and just the way that a lot of people are now, how long they've been watching the product. I mean, that's the part that doesn't make it suit well. That's the part that makes people pretty fed up with the company, fed up with WWE to make a championship like this. And basically, to say that it's like a joke because, at that time it worked, but now in this type of era, I just don't think that having a championship like this is going to suit too well. But for me personally, though, I don't really have a problem with it. I did say what the hell when he named it, like when Mick Foley called it the 24/7 championship. I was like, what the hell? Like this is basically a replica of the Hardcore Championship. Why not just call it that? But then when I looked into it and watched Wrestle Talk, and I see if the sponsors didn't want it to be called that. Well, really, no, that wasn't Wrestle Talk. That's when I watched the Sports Entertainer. He said the sponsors didn't want it to be called that, and Vince was also considering calling it the Wild Card Championship. Honestly, like for me personally, I wouldn't have minded being called the Wild Card Championship, considering the fact that Brand Split LOL is pretty much dead at this point. People can just jump from show to show now. It's like there's no such thing as Brand Split anymore. And the only thing I really want to see with this title is how creative they can go because, um, and then, and that's the thing, we've seen that they're not very creative. But if Mick really meant what he said about the title being able to be defended on where someone can win it on NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, the problem with those shows is that they're pre-taped. So, except for 205 Live, that's literally after SmackDown. But for like NXT, NXT UK, I believe both of those are pre-taped. Have someone win that championship on those shows would be kind of bad because it would be pre-taped like a week ahead of time, and someone would basically have to pretend like they're champion for that long until it airs on television. That's the only problem with that. That's kind of where I'm. That's kind of the problem. I don't really think they would do that, but yeah, it was a pretty interesting way for Vince to, because Vince is desperate at this point. Vince is pretty much needs. Everyone knows he needs to step down, but he just won't do it. It's just a way for him to try to keep everybody happy, try to have something for everybody to fight over. I do like how R-Truth though, and you gotta give R-Truth a lot of credit. The man, for his age, he's managed to you know generate audience by audience, uh, age by age, and for a man who's almost 50, this is the second championship he's won this year. And that says a lot. And unlike Raw, where we had constant title changes, this was the one time that on SmackDown Live, and I know R-Truth is not going to hold that belt for very long because he didn't hold the United States title for very long. But I just like how, uh, for someone like him, especially with a lot of these years that R-Truth's been around, they haven't had him win anything. Someone like him, to be at this point where he's already won two championships in the same year. That's amazing. At the state that R-Truth's in is really amazing. And he's always been very funny to me. So, to have him dressed up with a wig on, and wearing all the stuff to try to wear in the skies, and people still chase after him, and he managed to escape them with the championship. You gotta love R-Truth. I mean, like I said, everyone's not going to agree with it. Everyone at this point, people are just completely dissatisfied. But I mean, I didn't really see nothing less. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a huge problem with it. I know why it's being done. Obviously, it's desperation. None of it surprises me at all. But I do think that, I mean, and I will just say this: the only good thing is that all it does is just give those guys who are usually out at catering just the chance to win something. And that's really all it does. I mean, there's nothing special about it. Obviously, the title doesn't have the best looks, but because my favorite colors are green and red, I don't really care too much about the look of the title because it has a green in it. But again, does it do anything for anyone? No. Did the original Hardcore Championship do something to anyone? Debatable. Um, and then there were people who were kind of comparing it to the European Championship, but I would have to disagree with that though because that championship, you had a few people with that title. It's not like it was a 24-hour thing, and I think, and the European title lasted for a pretty long time because it was introduced, I believe, in 1997 or eight, and it was retired in 2002, which I believe was the same year that the Hardcore Championship was retired in 2002. It was either 2002 or next year it was retired. And, it's basically the same thing as, it's basically the same thing with a different name is what it is. And I really don't have much else to say about it other than, you know, it's just typical WWE. I've watched it for so long that there's people who watch it longer than me who just don't. But for me, no matter what they have done recently, I'm always going to watch the stuff because I'm always going to be supportive to to the product. Now, will I always be satisfied? Hell no. So why does it not happen that they're doing? I'm not going to ever stop watching just for that reason. because just to immediately switch to a new product that we don't even know what's going to happen with that product. I just think that that's a little too quick of judgment to say, but even if All Elite was something that was a success, I would just watch both of them. I wouldn't stop watching one just because one is doing better. If I was living during the time, if I was born during the time WCW, ECW were in competition, I would have been watching probably all three of them because that's just how much I like wrestling, that I have love for the sport. It has nothing to do with just one being superior with others. It's just me loving the sport. I can really care less about what product is better than the other, really. But that's a little side note there. But like I said, Dolph Ziggler made a shocking return. 24/7 championship is definitely something different. Replica of the championship, and yeah, so I'm gonna do another video. Probably, hopefully, I can do a video of my review of Money in the Bank. I meant to do that yesterday, but it didn't happen. So, I instantly had to do this video. So, sign off, Raymaster Flex. First WWE video I've done in a while, but now I have a lot more free time to do these type of videos. Like, comment, subscribe, and